I never thought a simple rain could make me feel so empty. That trip, which to others might have just been a short weekend getaway, was, for me, a quiet reward after countless days of holding myself together. I had been looking forward to it for so long. I had pictured myself sitting by the window, quietly watching the lake in the early morning, sipping a warm cup of coffee, and letting my mind drift freely after months of not even daring to take a deep breath. But then, on the night before my departure, the weather forecast flashed a cold, emotionless message. Widespread storms, travel not advised. I stood there for a long time, staring out the window, then back at the suitcase I had so carefully packed. And suddenly, I felt like a child who had just dropped their favorite toy. It was not a big deal, but I felt deeply sad. Not because the trip was canceled, but because, once again, I was reminded, you can prepare for everything down to the smallest detail and still not have control over the outcome. What haunts me is not the rain, nor the canceled trip. It is this feeling that I have tried so hard to keep everything in life on the right track, yet just one small change from the outside world is enough to shake me. I realized I have lived too long believing that if I prepare well, if I plan everything carefully, if I try hard enough, then everything will be okay. That life is a problem to be solved, as long as I work hard enough. But sudden changes, things that do not ask for my opinion, they arrive like a cold reminder that, no, life does not follow the logic I hope for. And that, even when it is something small, can still cut deep into the softer parts of me, the parts that constantly crave a sense of safety. I looked at the suitcase I never got to open and realized that I was not just sad about losing a vacation. I was sad because something inside me had slowly forgotten how to be flexible. I had grown used to knowing every step in advance, to controlling everything just to avoid disappointment. But in doing so, I had become even more fragile whenever something veered off course. Maybe the hardest part is not accepting that plans change, but learning how to still feel whole when I am no longer the one in control. I used to be really good at turning things around. Whenever something did not go as planned, my first reaction was always, how can I fix this? As if by trying just a little harder, tweaking a few things, or quickly coming up with a plan B, everything could go back to the way it was. That night, I had the same thought. I picked up my phone, searched for hotels in other places, looked for destinations not affected by the storm. A part of me still did not want to let go of the plan. But the more I searched, the emptier I felt. Not because there were no options, but because I no longer saw myself in any of them. In the middle of all those automatic actions, I suddenly stopped. I stared at the screen and saw my reflection. Someone trying to fill an inner void with busyness. I turned off the phone. For the first time in days, I did nothing. No new plans, no backup solutions. I just sat still. Strangely, it was in that very moment, when there was nothing left to adjust, nothing left to do, that I began to truly feel myself. The regrets, the unmet expectations, the exhaustion I had ignored for so long, all of it came rushing in like a small wave, quiet, but real. And I let it come. I did not push it away. I did not try to analyze it. I just made space in my heart so that even sadness could have a place to rest. I do not know what will come next, but in that moment, I knew I had finally stopped fighting reality. And that was a beginning. I used to think that feeling safe came from having a clear plan, from everything unfolding exactly the way I arranged it. But as I sat in that unexpected stillness, I realized, on some days, the only thing I truly need is permission not to know. Not to know what is coming next. Not to know whether what I hoped for will still happen. Not to know if today's sadness will still be there tomorrow. And even in not knowing, I can still breathe. I started writing down what I was feeling, without structure, without trying to make sense of it, just scattered pieces, tired, regretful, anxious, empty. Yet there was something deeply real in it. For the first time in a long while, I was not writing to solve a problem, but simply to understand where my heart was. I stepped out onto the balcony. It was not raining, but the sun had disappeared. The air was damp, and the scent of earth drifted softly on the breeze. I let myself stand there longer than usual. No podcast. No thoughts like, I should be somewhere else by now. I just stood there, fully inside my present, simple and fragile just as it was. Slowly, that stillness no longer felt frightening. It became a place where I could simply be myself, with no need to prove anything, no need to have the answers. Maybe the deepest kind of peace does not come from keeping everything intact. It comes from knowing that I am still okay, even when nothing is the same anymore. A few days after the trip was canceled, I received a message from an old friend, someone I had not been in touch with for nearly a year. There was no special reason. Just, you suddenly came to mind. How have you been lately? If I had been out chasing the original plans that day, I probably would have glanced at the message, replied with a familiar emoji, and moved on. But because I was here, in this unexpected quiet, I read every word carefully and realized that I missed that person too. We ended up talking for a long time, not because anything major had happened, but simply because we both needed something real to hold on to. And I began to wonder, what if the plan falling through had actually opened up a door I never would have noticed? Not in the sense of everything happens for a reason, because sometimes no reason can ease the pain. But there are things that can only happen once the space is cleared. And sometimes, it is the things we never planned that bring us closer to ourselves than any plan ever could. I am not trying to turn everything into something positive, but I no longer see change as a failure either. I see it more as life offering a quiet suggestion, not forced, not loud, and my part is to simply listen, to see if I am ready to try a different path. Right now, I do not know where that path will lead. But unlike before, I am no longer afraid, because I know that wherever I go, I am learning how to return to myself, a little softer and a little more true each time. Looking back now, I am no longer sad about the trip being canceled, not because I found a new plan, or because something magical happened, but because I have stopped tying my self-worth to having to accomplish something or needing to get somewhere in order to feel like I am truly living. I have learned to accept the days that do not go as planned, not as a form of surrender, but as a reminder that I can still be at peace, even when things do not unfold the way I had hoped. Some changes leave us disoriented. Some broken plans take entire layers of expectation down with them. But even in the middle of that wreckage, something quietly begins to grow. Patience, attentiveness, and a gentler relationship with myself. I no longer wish for life to always be predictable. I just hope I can stay soft enough not to break, and honest enough to pause when I need to, so that instead of asking, "Why is everything changing?" I can gently ask myself, in the midst of all this change, what part of me is being called forward? And I know that if I listen long enough, the answer will always come.